Oh no.
What do you mean, oh
The
no?
r-
That's not
the
good.
room the room that you're in. Oh, I was watching the stream earlier, and this red room, did the music change? Are you hearing like a
It
new
did.
music?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that totally obsolete music is not even supposed to be there.
Oh no.
Not at all. Like that completely slipped through the cracks.
I mean, it sounds cool.
Yeah, but the problem is it's you might not realize it, but it's actually playing on top of the real music.
Oh.
So, like before we had the current music system design, which the current music system design is all deck based. Like every deck of the station has a queue associated with it, and every queue is comprised of layers, which are comprised of segments,
Okay.
and these like segments are chosen. Whatever, it's all dynamic. Before we had that system, there was just like an ambient track and then volumes in the level that said like if you go into this then play this music track. uh that music that you're hearing is like the old tension music from like 5 years ago that was
Okay.
put into this room, and I forgot that volume existed until we shipped, and I was watching a stream and saw
You're
it
like, oops.
like 2 hours ago and wanted to die.
So in my chat was saying, as a software engineer, I never considered what QA for music would be like. Um, so it actually got complicated. Yikes. Yeah, that would be interesting. I mean, I feel like, um, yeah. How is that? Like, do you do QA stuff for for music and?
Yeah, I have to. So
Mm-hmm.
the problem with audio and music is that like it's really abstract. So like if you're playing the game and the gun doesn't fire, like that's obvious for
Yeah.
QA to file a bug for. But um, as an example, not like a month or two ago, I was in a chat with the level designer and the producer,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "Yo, dude, I think music is broken." I was watching someone on the dev team play this area, and there wasn't music.
Uh
And
huh.
they're like, "Oh yeah, there's a lot of not music. Is there not supposed to be?" And I was like, excuse me? No, the game actually has music like wall to wall. There should always be music playing, even if it's really ambient."
Mm-hmm.
And they're
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, no, I've been playing for like 3 hours and haven't heard any music." And I
Oh
was like, "How
no.
long?" And I was like, "How long has this been going on?" They're like, "I don't know, like a year."
Oh no.
So my point is, QA is like audio is way too abstract, so unless you like know audio and know what you're listening for,
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard to find bugs. And so I have to do most of my own QA stuff because I actually know what I'm like listening for.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are all sorts of God, all sorts of war stories when it comes to like the music system, because it was all like I made it all, and it's this kind of complicated system where, like I said, you every deck has a queue, and the queue is comprised of layers.
Uh huh.
Layers each have a pool of like segments or clips that it chooses from, and every layer has conditions that bring
Mm-hmm.
it in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And it all has to be like locked to a musical grid so that clips that are playing, because all the music you're hearing is dynamically built by the game on the fly.
Okay.
It's not like all like a pre-recorded track that is looping. It's every music clip, every music cue that you're hearing for a deck is comprised of around 150 different recordings that are all sequenced and layered and whatever. But because it was so extra complicated, it would get extra broken. So like there were synchronization issues, cyberspace, which you haven't gotten to, just like
Mm-hmm.
completely broke music, because cyberspace is a lot more intense in terms of combat. So there are a lot more combat sounds going on at once, and like all of the combat sounds completely ate up the voice budget for like you can only have so many concurrent sounds, which is your voice budget, and the combat sounds would eat up the entire voice budget and starve out the music systems. Then like music
Yeah.
would break and never play again.
Huh.
that was a fix until that was something I fixed maybe a week before release, because I finally found that out, and so my fix was just to triple the voice limit and pray that
I hope it comes out
it,
okay.
yeah, hope it comes out okay. I haven't gotten complaints from anyone. This
Yeah.
QA for music is an extra pain in the ass.
It's just like it feels like it's much less straightforward.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's really abstract, so it's a lot
Yeah.
harder for someone who doesn't like know the department to know what they're even listening for.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And especially because we like all the we used Unreal Audio, which there's some middleware tools like Fmod and Wise that you can use that have a lot of built-in functionality for this kind of layering and sequencing and whatever. Unreal Audio does not have anything built in, so it's all just had to be built from the ground up, which means encountering a whole lot of bugs. Speaking of which, since I haven't been actually hearing the game, and I came in to do R&D to find out like how the music system is performing, I gotta ask, how has it been performing? Has it felt really sparse? Has it felt really dense? Has it felt like
It feels
combat music is
very atmospheric. And then there's some very clear changes that that line up with like when there are higher pressure situations, right? Like a more serious enemy, right? And otherwise it's I don't know. Yeah, it sounds very atmospheric, but it's got like a I feel like it fits the vibe of the game really well. Like it's a little bit spooky, it's a little bit cybery. I don't know how else to describe it. Like, but yeah, it feels really good. It sounds great.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
So on the combat, those higher intensity situations, how often has that been coming in? Has that been something that you've been
I think I've only encountered
noticing
it
a lot?
like it's mostly only come in like a couple of times. So it doesn't get triggered. It seems like when there's just the sort of like dumb mutants, the like naked or semi-naked bros. But then when there's been more of the like the Borg or there was that like almost Cylon looking guy, that definitely kicked in when I encountered those guys.
Okay, so it's been only a couple times so far.
Yeah, but I mean, I haven't really encountered that many serious enemies. Mostly, it's been the dumb, like mutant guys.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna keep checking in on that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Has it, when it starts and stops, have you noticed it like coming in? Does it feel like it starts and stops at the right time, or have there been times where you're like, why is combat music still playing?
I mean, it definitely feels like it comes in at the right times. And it's interesting. I haven't really noticed it like consciously when it's stopped, but like obviously like you encounter an enemy and there's an atmospheric change, there's an audio change. There's also which is trying to also elicit like an adrenaline change, in your player state.
Right.
And so I think all of those I notice when they happen, but I don't consciously think, oh, now it's over. But you do get that sense of calm when it has sort of either faded out or stopped. To like, it makes it very clear that like, oh, you're no longer in danger, even if you didn't actually like think, oh, the music stopped, therefore I am no longer in danger.
Right.
But you
Okay, well
just get
that's perfect actually,
yeah, yeah.
because
You do get
there's
that
a
like that sense of relief or release.
good job, John. Your guesswork was wonderful. No, we have a saying in sound design, which is the best sound design is invisible, which
Yeah.
is essentially getting at the idea that if you did your job well, not many people are going to notice it. But
Yeah.
if you did your job badly, a lot of people notice it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the fact that you're saying that you haven't really consciously thought about the music coming out
Yeah.
means that it didn't drop out at like a really stupid time.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I did at least a good enough job
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, the chat is saying that sometimes, like in other games that we've played, they notice when like the fight music lingers too long because it feels weird, right? That you're like, no, we're just walking through a hallway. It's done. Why is there still combat music? And they're saying that they also have not noticed that They haven't seen any of that problem here. So
Oh, well, that's surprising, but also good.
yeah,
I thought that if there was a problem with the combat music, it would be that it lasted too
lasts too
long.
long. Yeah,
The reason why is if you care how the sausage is made, so to
yeah, do
speak.
it. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's perfect. So in
Yeah,
that case, I can get a little
you can get more
nittier
nerdy.
grittier.
Yeah,
I
go
can get a
for it.
little nerdy into
Yeah.
how this all goes. So like I said, every deck has a queue, and this queue is comprised of what I call layers, and these layers are essentially pools of clips. So every queue has an associated musical grid with it. Like it's going to have a tempo and it has a meter. And so let's say the medical deck is 75 BPM and
Okay.
it's 4/4.
Okay.
So there's a sample accurate clock that was actually experimental while we were developing this game. Called Quartz in Unreal, where the Quartz clock would give sample accurate events that you could bind to. So it would say like every beat or every subdivision or every bar, it would spout out an event with whatever the current musical timing is. So I built the system around that to where the music cue would respond to these musical grid events. So each of these layers have essentially a retrigger time. To where, let's say you're in the Harmony 1 layer,
Okay.
and this Harmony 1 layer has a retrigger time of 8 bars. That means that every time that the music cue gets a quartz update, it says, okay, what's the current place in the music, and iterate through all of its layers, and say the harmony one, it would say, okay, well, harmony one is retriggering every 8 bars, and if we modulo the current musical time against those 8 bars, are we on, an eighth bar, like bar 8, 16, 24, 32, etc. And if so, it says, all right, harmony one, go for it. And then Harmony 1 is like, okay, well, I have a set, a design authored 50% chance to play, so I'm going to roll a dice. If I succeed, I'm going to grab a random clip out of my Harmony 1 pool, and I'm going to play it right now on the musical grid. That's
Okay.
how the whole soundtrack is built on the fly. Each of these layers has essentially two criteria from the cue as to whether it can play. One is the exploration intensity, and one is the combat intensity. So the exploration intensity, as you discover new regions on the minimap, it kicks up, it increments this exploration intensity, and then every like 5 or 6 seconds, it slowly decays that exploration intensity down. So the faster you explore, the more dense your exploration music is going to be, because
Okay.
you're gonna have some of the higher threshold layers, like the melodic layers. They need a lot of exploration intensity to come out. So because the exploration intensity is always decaying, you need to overcome that by exploring faster and uncovering regions. Combat intensity is, which you are probably hearing combat like right now.
I am. Yeah.
That is
There were a
based
lot of
on,
dudes.
that was a lot of dudes. Enemy threat weighs into that. So every enemy has a threat value associated with them, and all currently engaged enemies add up their threat together to say what's your cumulative threat at any point, and that threat is then divided by like your progress through the game, so that mutants, these humanoid mutants that you're fighting right now, are important early on, but when you're later on and you have rocket launchers and whatever else the hell you have, they're easy and they're negligible at that point. So we divide that total threat by the progress of the game. That's combat intensity. So each of the musical layers, like I said, it on its re-trigger time from the musical grid will evaluate, can I currently play based on exploration and combat intensities, and if so, then it tries to. Now, all this to come back to why I was worried about combat music lasting too long.
Yeah.
There's nothing that actually stops music clips. Like if a clip plays, one of the clips or segments that are part of these layers, if one plays, it plays through to completion. Like it's like a set and forget sort of sound. The layer says, play this 8-bar bass line or whatever, and then it's just thrown into the abyss. So there's nothing that actually stops it. So my fear was you would enter combat, it would play and commit to an 8 bars of drum and bass and whatever, and then you would exit combat, shortly after, and you'd have 7 more bars of drum and bass when it was no longer relevant. So hearing that it stops at a point that isn't so obviously wrong that it jumps out is a big relief.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, like I said, Quartz had which is the subsystem that does the musical grid in Unreal, it was experimental, and we just took the experimental release like as soon as they announced it, because I'm like, I got this idea, I know what I could do.
Yeah.
And started building it around it, and it was actually like kind of we had to do like bug fixes for like in the deep epic code in the engine to like make it actually work, because it was experimental at the time and it wasn't solid yet. In Unreal 5, it's now no longer experimental, but this game is not Unreal 5, and so we have an older version with more still experimental features that we had to fix.
Melchior the Wise in the chat said, did he work on the Turok remasters? And if so, can you talk about the difference when working on a remake versus a remaster?
No, so Night Dive has parallel teams. The team who made System Shock, made this game, isn't the same team that does like the ports to modern consoles. Okay. That's the Kex team. They have their whole team that builds an engine to facilitate that. The most part that I played in like any of the Turok games was just they would ask people to come help play test and stress test multiplayer and whatever, and I did some of that and have fun playing Turok with the team before it's out, but I didn't have any hand in the development of that.
Oh, there was another one. Melchior says, what game is your favorite when it comes to audio engineering perspective?
Audio engineering perspective?
Yeah.
Bro, I don't know. Audio engineering perspective. Like if it was an audio perspective or a music perspective, that would be a different question, but an audio engineering perspective?
Or for that matter, yeah. What about from an audio perspective or a music perspective? Or
well, okay, I'll sit on the audio engineering perspective,
okay,
because I need to actually think on that. So
okay.
I'll get back with an answer later. But from a music perspective, actually the reason I'm gonna go with Chrono Cross, which is the sequel to Chrono Trigger,
okay.
which is that game is the reason why I decided to do game music in the first place.
And can you expound on that? Why was that impactful, or what did
So it's a JRPG. I don't know if you've ever played like any of the PlayStation Final Fantasy games or anything like that. But
I haven't. Like but that. I mean, obviously, I'm familiar enough.
Yeah, with the program.
I know. And I have heard amazing things about the audio in those games.
Yeah, the music is unparalleled.
Yeah.
In those games. But there's this character called Nicky in that game who is like a glam rock star in the game.
Okay.
And
shit! I think the turret just moved.
Uh-oh. You have any EMP grenades?
I do. Yeah. Great.
You live?
I did.
Silence is my best companion, and soon it will overcome my heartbeat. The only sound that reminds
So I
me
think
that
that audio log. Not to interrupt, I can't time it well with the delay.
It's all right.
Sorry.
I can tell you when.
Until now, until the end.
Okay, this one's done.
So that one, I believe, is a Kickstarter backer line. So when we did the Kickstarter, when you'd get to certain tiers, you would unlock perks, and one of the higher tiers allowed people to like write in their lines, and we cast people and recorded them. I think that 5U5H154N, that's a Kickstarter backer right there.
Okay, that's cool. We got medical CPUs.
Okay, when that starts,
Shodan is
I
locked
want,
down the
without
elevators.
looking it up, I
Mira
want
says if we can lower the
anyone to
security
tell
over
me
the
if it
hall,
sounds
we'll be able to
familiar.
gain access to restricted areas and get the lifts moving again. She says smashing cameras and taking the medical CPU nodes offline will help, but I don't see the point. This thing is everywhere.
What do you think, chat? So what's
I
the
just
link here?
The link there is just that if you've watched anime,
Mm-hmm.
you've heard that voice before. So
Oh.
that guy, not to pick favorites, but the voice actor for David Honig, I was super happy to work with him because I've heard his voice for like ever. It's Todd Habercorn, and
Okay.
he's in like every anime ever.
Huh. Neat.
And
Okay.
so if you
Well,
look up Todd Habercorn, he's in Fairy Tale. He was in he like so many like 500 animes, and
yeah.
super professional too. He was like the way that you get voice actors, or the way that they bill is like per hour that they're in the
Yeah.
booth. And
Yeah.
so this game has like a ton of characters, each with only like a few lines, and so we had to cast for versatility. And him, super incredible, like versatile actor. He was able to just get through so many people. I think he's also the those like Alpha 5 looking guys that you encountered right
Yeah.
out of the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
I think he's also them.
Oh, okay. Cool. I think I hear somebody gnawing on some brains.
Is that a non-nude humanoid mutant that I
Yeah,
saw there?
he had most of a shirt and pants. Yeah.
Unacceptable.
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
Who does he think he is? Who's he trying to be?
What does he think he's people?
Yeah. The audacity.